Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 21 of CCFR Radio on the Air. I'm your host, Rod Giltaca. Thanks for joining me again today on the show. We've got a Supreme Court update. We've got some more disinformation from anti-gun groups that claim everyone else is spreading disinformation. Kind of weird. Liberals say that they banned no 22s and no 12-gauge shotguns, no shotguns at all, since 2020. And guess what the number one firearm that is registered in the Buyback is? Anyway, we will tell you. You don't have to guess. Quebec launched a new program recently to randomly call up the spouses in Quebec of licensed gun owners to see if those spouses feel safe in the home with the licensed gun owners. So that's kind of interesting. The CCFR's Gunny Girls documentary is going to YouTube. So now you have a chance to see it if you haven't. And that's hitting YouTube on June the 26th. Make sure you don't miss it and make sure you share it. This is the last regularly scheduled episode of this season. We're going to our summer schedule and we'll tell you about that. Anyway, all that and more, CCFR Radio starts right now.
CCFR Radio on the Air is brought to you by Wild TV Plus, the best hunting, fishing, and outdoor content available anywhere, anytime, on any device. Visit wildtvplus.ca.
All right, we are back, and via the internet, we've got Tracy Wilson of the CCFR. Wilson!
That was a good one.
Was it?
Yeah, I like it.
I can't tell the difference.
Oh, no, it almost reminds me of like Fred Flintstone, though. Like, Wilma!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll start doing that instead.
Maybe.
But your name isn't Wilma. This is all so confusing.
Yeah, it's gone bad already.
All right. So in this episode, we've got a couple of frustrating things, but I mean, this is politics and the war against only legal licensed gun owners. But we've also got some really fun stuff in this episode, so I'm excited about that. All right.
Let's get rolling.
Let's get rolling. First thing I want to talk about is the Supreme Court update. Just so you know, if you haven't heard, the CCFR is the first firearm organization in the history of Canada to have a case at the Supreme Court. It's a very interesting situation that we're there, but we've made it. Mm-hmm. We have you put up a story that has a link to our factum, otherwise known as our memorandum of argument, and the motion record up on ccfr.ca if anyone wants to read it, correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's up there. So there's actually a PDF. You can download it and save it if you want, or you can just read it off the website. But we wanted to make sure that was there for everyone because it's not our case. It's yours. If you're a member or supporter of the CCFR, this is your court case. So you should read it.
Yeah. Or you're a gun owner and got a dog in the fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Now we have an interesting little thing to think to talk about. And this comes from our diabolical friends over at Police Saint-Sylvain. And there's always been this nagging problem of them spreading, it's not even misinformation, it's disinformation, while accusing everyone else of spreading disinformation. Tell us a little bit about this particular instance of it.
Yeah, well, this report came out from the RCMP, and Polly took that and interpreted it to be, their statement is that 71% of RCMP traced crime guns are domestically sourced. And that's sort of true, but they left out all the important information that leads them to that number. So data published by StatsCan, the government's own website, shows that 92% of crime guns are never recovered. So the number we're talking about, that only leaves 8% of crime guns recovered by police. And of those 8% of crime guns, public safety states that less than 20% are sent for tracing. I had an RCMP guy reach out and correct me to 16%, but the government says 20% are sent for tracing. So if you're still with me, that's 20% of the 8% of the crime guns that are recovered, which means about 1.6% of crime guns are even sent for tracing at the RCMP. So 71% of that 1.6% is about 1.1% are domestically sourced. And that sounds about right. But it's a far cry from 71% of all crime guns. So they've inflated the numbers. Now, that also includes ghost guns, which are illegal, 3D printed guns, toy guns, replicas, airsoft, and none of the data includes anything from Ontario or Quebec, Canada's most populous provinces, because they do their own tracing. So the moral of the story is the RCMP trace a very, very, very tiny drop in the bucket fraction of all crime guns. And obviously, most of those are domestically sourced.
So for those following along at home, here's all the crime guns they're using in Canada. Here's what they're actually tracing. And out of that, you have to remove all of the toy guns and the pellet guns, which they kept in
Yeah,
to
they did.
to pump the numbers. And the other thing I've only got 40 seconds left, but this is important because I've had a lot of experience with this. You have to pay attention to the word traced. Now, it's my understanding that the police, when they have crime guns, when they recover them, remember 92% of them, they don't even recover, right? That's the overwhelming, that's almost all of them, basically. They have this tiny number. And out of those, they only trace the ones they can see may have come into the country because the majority of them have they're short-barreled handguns. They don't even trace those, knowing full well they came from outside the country. So anyway,
Yeah.
this distinction is very important. And at the end of the day, it's like, who's spreading disinformation? Is it Police CCFR? Is it the RCMP, or is it the gun lobby that tells you how this stuff works? Anyway, all right. We're out of time for this segment. When we come back, we've got some other interesting stuff to talk about, so stick with us. All right, we are back, and we've got a couple of things to cover in this segment. It might be a little bit difficult, and probably the first one is the most difficult. Just from the time of recording, literally the day before yesterday, there was a shooting in Montreal where a police officer died. Another police officer was injured, was shot, and a civilian was shot and killed. And of course, the perpetrator. But what happened there, Ms. Wilson?
Yeah, that's right. So an Alberta man from Lethbridge, Alberta, traveled to Montreal to commit this attack on police. There was some firing. He had broke a window in a hotel, fired out the window. People nearby saw it. They called police. Somehow this guy got down onto the ground. We have an officer dead. We've got a civilian dead. We've got the perpetrators dead, and one officer in stable but serious condition in hospital. And yeah, this guy was a nutcase, really into communism. He left a manifesto of like 104 pages. It's a super complex issue. We don't really have time to deep dive into it now. But while we wait for the investigation and all the information to come forward, people never let a tragedy go to waste. Montreal Mayor Soraya Martinez Ferreira said today that now is the time for more gun control, despite not having an ounce of information about the firearm or this crime.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, there's no shortage. What was his name? The guy in Montreal, Peliquin?
Tristan Peliquin. Yeah, he wrote a story about it too.
Pangolin. I like to call him Tristan Pangolin. But yeah, and of course, Police CCFR, they jumped on. It's like, okay, well, now we should do more like just these situations are very complicated. And
Mhm.
and it's this manifesto that was left behind. There was quotes in it from the Communist Manifesto. There was misogynist messages. There was all kinds of anti-capitalist messages. Anyway, this was not simple. So anyway, everyone that wants
Yeah.
to use these kinds of things for their agenda needs to calm down, wait, get all the information. We can try to analyze this later. Or maybe he just had severe mental illness. That might have been a thing too, right? So
Yeah, that's more than likely a thing.
anyway, okay, let's move on. So Andrew Lawton of the Conservative Party of Canada ended up doing an order paper question and got a bunch of information about the firearms that have been turned into the Liberal Party of Canada's confiscation program. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's right. So you'll remember back in the day, the government assured us that these are weapons of war designed to kill the most amount of people in the shortest amount of time. And the number one most declared gun, what was it? A GSG 16, a little 22 rimfire rifle. Over 5,000 of them turned in. In fact, in the top 10 most declared guns, 3 of them are 22s. AR-15s account for less than 40% of all the firearms claimed. And I'm surprised by that because everyone says, they know I have them. They were previously registered, but no, people didn't turn them in. So yeah, literal pop guns, not weapons of war.
Yeah, very interesting. And shotguns too. So there was the
Yep.
entire time the Liberals have denying we have not banned any 22s. We have not banned any shotguns over and over, and no hunting firearms over and over again.
course.
And every time that we would say, oh, you absolutely have, the list is there. Most Canadians can read. They're like, this is gun lobby misinformation, disinformation,
Yeah.
designed to scare hunters. Anyway, I have a clip. You know, you don't have to take my word for it. All this stuff is on Canadian mainstream news and or the parliamentary website where you get to see all the videos. Anyway, check this out.
Chair, how many shotguns are now on that ban list?
The Honourable Minister.
Yeah, this is a bit of confusion that was put out by the gun lobby to frighten hunters, and in fact, we did not prohibit any shotguns.
Again, Madam Speaker, that's absolutely incorrect. We have not banned any 22 rifles. The weapons that we banned are all consistently weapons of military design.
And it's very clear, and the Canadian Firearms Program has made it explicitly clear that 10 and 12 gauge shotguns are not included in this prohibition. And so all people that were concerned about that need not be concerned.
No, you'll notice on the list the weapons that we are banning. First of all of them have in their origins and in design military use, but they are all semi-automatic. They are all capable of rapid sustained fire, not automatic fire, but rapid sustained fire. They're all capable of taking large capacity magazines, and they all use center fire ammunition, not 22 rimfire ammunition, but ammunition either 223 NATO rounds or higher capacity of rounds. And so those are the weapons that have made this list of prohibited weapons. They are not designed and used for hunting, and they're not designed and used for sport shooting.
I am getting sick of people like Bill Blair saying gun lobby misinformation, gun lobby disinformation, when they literally lie right to the faces of Canadians, are never held accountable for it, and it just continues on. That there is literally tons of 22s and 12 gauges on this list.
Well, you and I just kind of perused this list for about, 8 minutes, and we picked out, whatever, like 10, 12 gauge shotguns and 10 22s in that list. It's
Yeah, easily. And these are just
chock
the
full of
list
them.
of stuff declared, not everything that was banned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
it's really remarkable. For some reason, these people, it's just like, yeah, this is just how it's done. You just bold-faced lie to everyone that's paying your paycheck, and then you accuse the people who aren't lying of being the liars. I don't know why this is tolerated, but it is, I guess. I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know.
All right. When we come back, we've got a little bit more positive news, which is great, which I like. So stick with us. Welcome back, everyone. We've got one more news item to discuss, and then we've got a couple of fun items, which I like. So
Yes.
the Sûreté de Quebec, I think I'm saying that right, which is the provincial police force in Quebec, have got a new program where they are randomly calling the spouses of licensed gun owners to make sure that these spouses and or conjugal partners or partners in other in other regards feel safe in the home with a licensed gun owner.
Yeah, that's right. The Sûreté de Quebec doesn't know that we already have red and yellow flag laws in this country. The police can already suspend your license. They can confiscate your guns. They can issue protective orders. They're allowed they have the ability to allow firearms to be removed before violence occurs. Why are police investigating people who've done nothing wrong and cold calling the spouses of gun owners? Now, I take intimate partner violence seriously, but I feel like, is there nothing else that they can be working on? They don't treat any other wives like this. No other wives get checked up on. It's just the wives of licensed gun owners. What are they trying to say about licensed gun owners?
Well, it's interesting because licensed gun owners get a criminal background check every day. For
Mhm.
for a licensed gun owner to get and maintain a PAL, they needed spousal sign off, and the firearms program can interview the spouses. They just choose not to. If you remember
Mhm.
that order paper question, only 10% of references get called during the PAL application process. So
Yeah.
why don't you
Yeah.
just say, we're going to call 100% of them. We're going to allocate $5 million more a year to the firearms program, and we're going to talk to everybody, right? And
Yeah.
and you touched on something. Just imagine all the different demographic groups in Canada, and the RCMP came out, let's say, with a program where they picked a demographic in any demographic for any reason and started calling all of their wives to make sure that they felt safe having that demographic person in the house with them. I don't think that would be tolerated. So
Oh, no.
anyway, kind of an interesting program. And I think they're also, like, I did in an interview on CTV about this. And I said, I'm interested in public safety too, but there's a lot of potential for misuse and abuse in a program like that as well.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
all right, just thought we'd mention that. Now, on to the fun stuff. The Gunny Girls documentary that I talked about for, several times is coming online on YouTube on, it wasn't on this sheet. Stand by, man.
June 26th.
June 26th, which is this Friday for us, for our television audience. That was last Friday. So
Yeah.
let me do a little time travel here. So it's already up by the time you're watching this. So you can check that out.
Yeah, and you know what? I really want everyone to go and check it out. It's not very long, but it's really, really important to me that people watch it because it shows the very humble beginnings of the CCFR Women's Program, the reason we put this whole thing together. The calendar was the fundraiser that fueled our ability to do these ladies' range days all across the country. And then, of course, the fake controversy about that calendar and the women who are in it by left-leaning crazy people on Twitter. So the girls get to tell their side of the story. I love every single one of them. And yeah, it just shows that the left likes empowering women as long as it's the right kind of women. So yeah, just very interesting.
As long as they agree with,
Yes.
with what they, with what they think. Anyway, that documentary was a fair bit of work. I think it turned out beautifully. And I'm, let me put it this way. I'm glad that it's done and I'm glad that it's out because that project plagued me for a while. That was supposed to be before Christmas.
Yeah, but it's really important and it means a lot to me that it got done and that it's out. And I hope everyone really enjoys it.
Yeah. All right. So last thing we need to talk about is the summer schedule. So if you've been following the show and the, CCFR Radio on the air for 5 full seasons here on Wild TV, you'll know that we go to our summer schedule in the summer. So I do this show, well, so does Tracy, but I produce the whole show. I do it every second week all year long, except 2 months in the summer. It's the only time that this bi-weekly commitment actually, goes away for a month at a time, which is great. So the next show for the television audience will be on July the 30th.
Okay.
And August the 27th. Those are the next 2 shows. I think Wild TV just repeats the existing show throughout the month in between, but those are the dates. So yeah, look forward to that. And then we'll see. You never know. Maybe we'll be launching season 6 in September, but that's yet to be determined.
Yeah, well, and in the meantime, if you're missing a little bit of CCFR content, you can go and check out the Gunny Girl documentary. We should have some of the interviews from our AGM up in the next few weeks, so you can look at that stuff over the summer while you're having CCFR withdrawals. And I look forward to seeing you in a month's time.
Absolutely. So for you and I, it's goodbye for a month. So thanks for all the updates. And I guess I will see you soon.
All right. We will see you then.
All right, we are back. Now, I want to just share some interesting information with you before I let you go. So every year, the Canadian Firearms Program puts out a report. It's called the Commissioner of Firearms Report. I think that's what it's called. But if you just search for that, you'll find it. And you might even want to leaf through it yourself because there's some interesting info in there. There's the number of PALs, what provinces they're from, how many new ones, how many firearm revocations, what the reasons for. There's actually a lot of interesting information there. But here's the thing. At the end of 2025, there were more PAL holders in Canada than ever before in Canadian history. Just shy, like a hair shy of 2.5 million. And that's interesting to me if you think about the decimation of firearm businesses and the banning of private property and the decimation of gun clubs and all this damage. But yet more people than ever want to join our community. In fact, there was 141,000 new PAL applications. People had never held a license before. And that's very interesting to me, right? People really want to join our community. And what that tells me is that what the mainstream media is trying to do to license gun owners, what the government's trying to do to license gun owners as far as public perception, it's not working. And that in itself is quite an achievement. That's pretty cool. So anyway, I just want to share that with you. Another interesting number from that report, there are 794,000 Canadians are licensed to own handguns. We can't transfer handguns anymore right now, but if the CCFR is successful in overturning the OIC, the Order in Council, and the Supreme Court of Canada, those people could actually have AR-15s. Depends how the court handles all this. We'll see, right? No guarantee of that, obviously. But that's the highest number of RPAL holders ever. And as I said before, there are more people in Canada, far more people licensed to own handguns than play organized hockey. So that's rep hockey or, league hockey, whatever. Not pickup, but, organized hockey, Pee-wee league hockey, whatever. Which is at about 550,000. And there's 800,000 people licensed to own handguns if we could transfer them a handgun, right? Interesting. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. So our community is still going strong despite the damage we're taking. So I don't know, there's still hope. There's reasons to be optimistic. Okay. Keep your eyes peeled for a video that might be coming out in the next couple of weeks with a big announcement from the CCFR, more fighting, more pressure that we are putting directly on the federal government over this OIC. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Go to the CCFR's YouTube channel and keep an eye out for that video. As well, keep an eye out on the CCFR's YouTube channel for our AGM speeches, which we're going to put out, and some other content, including the Gunny Girls documentary. Find that on the CCFR's YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, type in CCFR or CCFR Canada. You'll find the YouTube channel, and that'll be on the most recent videos. Anyway, if you want to support the CCFR, keep fighting for your ability to legally own and use firearms in Canada, feel free to go to ccfr.ca, become a member, donate. If you donate on a recurring basis, $20 or more a month, you get included into the Insiders group. Anyway, lots of ways you can help. Thanks so much. Next episode will be around July 30th. Take care. We'll see you then.